All right, welcome everybody. This talk is going to be about medical cannabis, and we're blessed to have three extremely educated people here to share their wealth of knowledge, both on legislation as well as the medicinal uses. So we've got Senator Creagan, former Senator Espero, and Lynette Shaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. It's an honor to be here. This is a very distinguished panel, and after all the problems that we went through establishing medical marijuana in California, I'm very, very happy to see this event, see so many people unafraid to speak freely about marijuana and hemp and cannabis and every subject. And it was a very long time and a very big struggle to get to this point where we could start. You know? So before I tell my dramatic story, would you like to say a few words?
Aloha Maui, and happy to be here with you. As you know, Hawaii was the first state legislatively to pass a medical cannabis bill in the year 2000. And actually that was my first year in the legislature as well. But unfortunately, between 2000 and 2015, nothing was done. And let me say that part of that was because of the legislators. So it's going to be real important this year that you, or next year, that you get involved. Our Lieutenant Governor, Josh Green, was one of the biggest opponents to the cannabis, the medical cannabis. As someone mentioned over here before, he's a medical doctor. And he finally switched when he decided to run for higher office. I should know because I ran against him. And I lost, but the advocacy continues. And if that's what it takes to get lawmakers to change their tune to run for higher office, then by all means, you know, let's hear from them and hold their feet to the fire. But you know, we're on the right track now, and I retired last year, but Representative Richard Creagan from the Big Island is still one of our strongest advocates, and I'll let him say a few words.
Hello, Mike Oko. Thanks for having me here. As a Hawaii Farmers Union for I don't know how many years, it's been a while. I think this is the best event I've been at for the Farmers Union, and thanks to Vince and all you guys for putting on this really wonderful event. So this is going to be my 7th session in the House, so as you well know, the longer you're in there, the more ability you have to shape things. And you know, I'm a physician as well as a farmer and a scientist. So, you know, when I talk to people about stuff, you know, I have a little more credibility, perhaps. You know, and Josh was also a physician, so we work together really well. And I think he will, at this point, you know, as Lieutenant Governor, you know, with aspirations to be governor, support, you know, our issues as much as he can. But I think he will, actually. So I have some optimism that legalizing marijuana might happen in the near future, and it's going to be, of course, always it's put on the table. And I think this year I'm getting some signals from the leadership that, you know, they might make at least some effort to promote it, because in my view it would help him to have you know, cannabis legalized, not just medical cannabis. I think the dispensaries, in some ways, because they are struggling maybe a little bit in the way of some of the progress in hemp and CBD use, but we'll have to see. So I think there's going to be a lot of discussion, and hopefully some significant progress. Certainly there's strong support from the leadership to get a good hemp bill, you know, addressing the concerns of everybody, but mostly basically small farmers in Hawaii. And I think we're going to have, you know, whatever input we get, we're going to try and put it into that bill. We're going to try and get the governor on board as early as possible, that, you know, hopefully before the session even starts, but at least get him on board, saying he's not going to veto something. And, you know, so we'll keep a line of discussion open with him. So, you know, as I said, I'm a physician, so I think that cannabis and of any form is, I think, a very useful thing for the health of Hawaii and individuals in Hawaii, and we need to expand that and enable that much more than we have in the past. And the farmers are at the root of all that. So thank you very much.
I had the honor of working with Governor Cayetano's office in 1999 as a medical marijuana expert, and we persuaded the him and the Attorney General of the state of Hawaii to allow a medical marijuana bill to go forward. And I was overwhelmed by that occurrence because I've been working with medical marijuana my whole life. I was Jack Harris' secretary and Dennis Crone's secretary for 5 years. They sort of like switched me back and forth. But the compelling medical crisis at the front of the battle in San Francisco kept me there riveted from the last 3 years were 1994, 95, and 96 when we developed Prop 215. We lobbied Sacramento. And what we had to do, because the ears and eyes were not open, was to take horribly ill and crippled people into the legislator's office and make them cry. And that's how we got their vote. Door by door, tier by tier. And this is what we had to do from the early 90s until we got on the ballot in 1996 and won, which was extraordinary. And they stopped putting our incredibly ill people in jail for two joints. And we also, all of a sudden, we had doctors coming in to see what we were talking about. Because I'm just a social worker. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm a musician. That my mother was a Quaker, and I have compassion. But I didn't know what was going on. Medically, I just knew that if we got them some certain types of marijuana, they quit dying, or they slowed down, or they had much, they could hold down their pills. And it was an incredible epidemic and a crisis, legally, politically, and socially. And this is where we started on the battlefront in 1990. What I have actually discovered and come along through all this process is being a pot grower from the old days, always being around pot. I knew a lot about the plant, but I started matching illnesses with strains, which I'm fascinated with now too. This is, I think, the important part of medical marijuana and medical cannabis, is that when a person has an illness, it can't have cannabis doesn't fit every illness the same way to everybody. It's very individual. And if you need a little more sativa, you need a little more CBD, you need a little more indica, you need a hybrid, not all CD. It's adjusting. You have to adjust. You have to tell someone like me, a consultant, what's going on. But after handling over 30,000 individuals in my career so far, probably more, I have a pretty good grasp on the situation. A lot of us from the underground that have come forward and say, we want to see the light. Here's our knowledge, here's our strains, here's what fixes people. Now they're starting to listen, finally. And it took a lot of work politically, it took a lot of work emotionally, it took a lot of expression in public, which is what I was trained to do, was to talk to people on behalf of the patients, on behalf of the cause. So this is, I think, why we're here today. We've been able to educate people, and I also was the test case. In 1997, I invented the first license to sell cannabis in the world. And 6 months later, I was sued by President Bill Clinton and spent 19 years as the test case to stop the cannabis industry. I was harassed by federal agents. My house was surrounded. They did everything wrong. They violated the Constitution, my civil rights, and now I beat them, and I have federal judges' protective orders because they did violate the rule of law, they did violate my rights, they did violate everybody's rights for medical access. That now we have federal judges' protective orders in the Ninth Circuit, which is 9 states, including Hawaii, where if you are following state law, you cannot be bothered by the DOJ, by federal judges' orders. And this is what the Shaw decision, I'm Lynette Shaw, this was the Shaw decision that stopped the feds nationwide and allowed the cannabis industry to go forward without interference from the DOJ. And it was a critical, critical case. And I just won in 2017. And we won. Thank you. It was very frightening, and I don't have family, I don't have children. They would have taken them away from me, and so I had to fight. My baby was the dispensary system and the medical marijuana knowledge that was contained by people working hands-on with pot, with the patients, with the doctors, with the caregivers, with the nurses, people. I learned so much I have a medical education I never went to college for, because I had hands-on and saw the healing happen. And that is also how we started making traction politically, because everybody has a patient in their family. Everybody has someone, their auntie, their cousin, their son, their brother, their mother, their father. Everybody's got a patient. And when they started finding out that marijuana actually helps illness, they wanted to know some more because they had someone they loved that was sick. And Dennis Peron called this the unfortunate dog and pony show, where we had to bring in the sick to the legislators. Knock on your door, we have an appointment to see you. Oh, hi, I'm Lynette Shaw. Gee, here's a dozen of my most crippled and sorrowful people you've ever seen in your life. Listen to their stories, you know? And then, I know these guys would have cried. I know I cried every time. And then we got the votes. And that is how we started and how we had to fight to get to the point where we can have a wonderful, wonderful event like this. We have hundreds of people here that want to know the truth. They want to know the truth, you know, they want to know how hard it is. Is there some way to make it easier? What are the rules that work? In California, they've totally ruined everything, and so we got to start all over there. We thought we had it fixed. It didn't get fixed. And they've been doing excessive fees. They restricted access for medical, which was a crime. We just got that overturned, where they wouldn't allow us to give away medical cannabis to the sick through the licensed dispensary system. So we just got that overturned with the Dennis Browning American Compassion Act, which is what we all started doing in the first place, was giving the darn stuff away to stop the pain and the illness. So California, even though we were a leader on that, we fell behind. And we've fallen behind in the hemp issue also, because of the drug war and then also the legislation and excessive legislation, excessive fees, excessive taxes, and a fear of allowing hemp to go forward. We're stymied. And Hawaii is in a much better position now than California is to take the lead on hemp and medical cannabis. And I'm proud to have been part of the history. I'm proud to be a resource for everybody here. I feel that all that pain and sorrow and 19 and a half years of thousands of hearings and marshals following me around that were, 10 feet tall and riot gear, it looked like they were 10 feet tall. They're following me around because they want to know who you all were. They want to know where you live and where's your supply chain, what your car is, and I didn't cooperate. It was a war, and we won the war, but we're not quite there yet. So one of my messages is the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. You need to organize. What I would like to see, and haven't seen here, is somebody registering voters. There's 5 islands worth of people who are active enough to come here. Are you all registered to vote? Let me have a show of hands. Who's registered to vote? Oh, that's pretty good. Look at that.
The question is, how many are going to go out and vote?
Right. Yeah, I vote every time, but
our last primary had a 39% turnout. Just remember that.
39%. That's average. It was worse in my hometown. Worse, but you have to come together, go and register people to vote, but then you have to have a meeting every once in a while. People that on the side, you kept a little list. You can't really copy your voter registrations, but you can say, hey, can I have your name and address and email so we can meet? And when you meet and pass information around, even if you only do it every quarter, every couple months, they're going to think about that and get out and vote. And that's extremely important. All of us need better legislation. We need good legislators like these wonderful men here who will speak the truth and vote the right way. And if they're going to vote to put you in jail, you fire them. We have the power to replace our legislators. And something that we have forgotten maybe, or do you think it's no good, my vote's not going to do any good? Yes, it does. Especially if we can organize a voter bloc. We have 5 states of activists here. That's thrilling to me. And if I would like to see the next event to have a table for voter registration and extra voter registers for every state. So when you go home, you can take some of those on the plane and make sure you get some of your friends to think about this, because that's where we made the change. We had the knowledge, we had the critically ill, we had people in jail. But we had to bring this information to the guys who have the votes. And the only way we had a voter bloc, we had lobbyists. I was a lobbyist for 4 years up in Sacramento. I would go with all these people. And they want to know, why are you bringing all these people? What's so wrong that you storm the state capitol with 50 people and come up every month and say, listen to us? That's what it took. That's what it took. Hopefully you won't have to go through all that. You know? But we have the power of the people. And the power of the people made medical marijuana happen. The power of the people made hemp happen. The power of the people we legalized in California, even though they messed up all the rules. They released 4,500 marijuana peaceful prisoners from jail within the first couple of months. 4,500 of our people were freed in California with legalization. And we got to get our people out of jail. We got to help our relatives stop suffering with terrible drugs and excessive medication when they could, and opioid overdoses. What's that about? We have indica that does a better job and doesn't kill you. So why are they having trouble acknowledging the truth? I've worked with thousands of people, and if they still had degrees, I would have a degree in cannabis healing. And it's been my honor to be a cannabis healer. It's been my honor to rediscover the medical attributes of this amazing plant. It was my honor to meet Jack Hare and become a hemp educator, and then meet Dennis Perone and become on the front lines. It was an extraordinary experience, and I'm still in this experience. It's been over 20 years. And we just won. When my case won, all of us won in the nation. And that was just in 2017. You know, so we're still fresh off the printing press here for freedom. And though everybody's been kind of working on this for a long time, we had legislation, like you said. When Cayetano signed that bill for medical marijuana, it was a huge breakthrough, but then nothing happened. Maybe a few less people got busted, I don't know. That's right. Register to vote. Yes.
So if you're not
Yes.
registered, please come and find out and register.
That's fantastic. Yes. Yeah, very, very good. That's exactly what I want to see. But I also, if you want to talk to me after this panel, I have a lot of information on a lot of different subjects.
So, status report. Of course, most everybody knows that U.S. Congress is not going to be taking up legalization anytime soon, although it'll be a big issue in the presidential election, so make sure you know where your candidate stands. They are, though, as we all know, taking up two major issues at the federal level, and these same issues must be taken up here at the state level, and that's hemp, and that's CBD. So hemp, because of the federal legislation, hemp is no longer illegal. It's off. It's not a Schedule 1. And in all actuality, we can all say cannabis is legal in the United States of America, and which it is. The issue is the THC level. But cannabis is legal in the United States of America. 34 states, I believe, have passed medical cannabis legislation. And I don't know if the Congress is going to act on that anytime soon, but 34 states, it's not a blue issue, it's not a red issue, it's a American cannabis advocate issue. And Hawaii can play a role in the medical cannabis debate. We've talked about medical cannabis tourism. We passed a law that allows reciprocation now, so a medical cannabis patient from the mainland can get a card here, and I know there are individuals who want to possibly open medical cannabis retreats and hotels and spas. One of the big bills this year, and Rep. Creagan probably can talk about it too, is the decriminalization bill. So as of January 1, we will be, I believe, the 26th state. So now the majority of states have passed decriminalization bills. So you could carry around 3 grams or less, which is about 3 joints, and you won't get arrested. Okay. You'll get a fine or a ticket, but you still won't get arrested. And if you're not being dumb and stupid and smoking at a beach or a park or a mall, in all likelihood, they'll never know it's even on you. unless you have some really good stuff and it smells. But but outside of that, so this is a big first step. And people have said, well, it's only 3 grams, but it's a symbolic step. Because every state on the West Coast, for example, before they went full adult recreation, they went decriminalizations. So hopefully Hawaii is on that track, and I think this will be not the 2020 election, but the 2022 election will be an important election in terms of our governors, because this last governor vetoed the hemp bill. And we could have taken a leadership role in hemp, and we could take next session a leadership role in CBD. I had a conversation with the Department of Health and some of his underlings, but right now they don't care to take a leadership role on CBD, for example. It's just not on their radar, or at least not a high priority. So we need to advocate, we need to lobby, and they need to hear from us so they know it is an important issue. Because cannabis and everything that comes with it is going to change Hawaii. And he and the farmers know this in particular, is we need to make certain that the small farmer is able to grow.
Yes.
And in my opinion, we should even allow homegrown. Because if you allow homegrown now, the person who is breaking into your car or stealing from a store can now grow something that every 3 or 4 months you harvest it and you earn income. You have a revenue stream. I believe everyone can be taught to grow. And if every family, every household had that option, and we know they're not. Not everybody brews beer, but you can brew beer. Not everybody makes wine, but you can make wine. So down the road, that will be, my friends, a big battle in a few years. And hopefully our representative here will help lead it. But we need to have homegrown, because some of these states now that have legalized cannabis on the mainland, they have stopped homegrown. And an example is Oregon has homegrown. They have a surplus of cannabis and prices are low. But you go to other states where they said you can't do homegrown, you must buy from a dispensary or an official outlet, and the price goes up. So it's a quality of life issue where individuals, every single one of us, if we have homegrown, can be earning extra income by just using a plant that God put in the Garden of Eden. And he put it there knowing that the humans that he are going to create it are going to get sick. Now there's a debate on why did he even let humans get sick, but that's another conference. So it's important that you get involved legislatively, register people, contact your lawmakers, because there will be battles at the state capitol that could come up with a result prior to the feds. And we don't know what's going to happen at the federal level yet, but so far states have been moving forward. They've been winning battles. They've been winning court cases. Mr. Ruggles on the Big Island, I mean, you know about that.
Yes,
he won his case just a few last week. And so
huge breakthrough.
The advocates are out there. We are the advocates. We are the warriors. We are the soldiers. And we need to make certain that everybody hears our message, because it will impact every single Hawaii resident for the better if we can get our agenda passed.
In California, they allow little victory gardens, 5-patient collective gardens, which are not allowed to sell out of that garden. And so that was a nod to the medical marijuana movement. So we can grow our own, we can grow for a few other people that can't grow for themselves, but we're not allowed to sell out of our own homegrown gardens. So that would be something I would like to see, protected here in Hawaii, because it's already that's just the horse is already out of the barn in California, and we're going to have to do a lot of repair work. But it was sort of like a halfway compromise that is working a little bit, because it's allowing some medical cannabis to be grown at home, but is not allowing income from these small gardens, which is a shame, because my small garden grows some of the best in Northern California. all organic for 20 years. And I'm not allowed to sell it anymore. So it's, but I do have good access to good medicine, and so do some of my most critical patients who are too sick to grow. And that was an important concession we got in Prop 64. And now the licensed dispensaries are allowed to donate from the licensed dispensary as of a couple weeks ago. And that was, we got that back. You know, that was our take back. You know, we need to be able to donate to the critically ill. This is not fair to them. What do you mean tax me if I give away an eighth? I got to pay $25 to give away an eighth. I can't afford to give away too many eighths that much. You know? So now we can. But I think also in Hawaii you have you're poised to do the right thing. You know, and there's a lot of minds here. There's a lot of people here that are thinking about this now, and I think that's wonderful. And we had a core group of 50 that did a lot of work in California to get to the point where we are now. And here's 200, 300, 400 people here. Over the weekend, we'll probably see about 500 individuals. That's wonderful.
I wasn't originally planning to be on this thing that Will asked me to do, and I'm very happy to be here. And you know, I think that, you know, what's happening is kind of like a complex clock. You have all these gears, but most of the gears are going in one direction, right? Every once in a while it slips back a little bit, but for the most part, this gear moves forward, this gear moves forward, and they interact. So we're moving. It's frustrating because of the slowness sometimes, but we are moving, and we've been moving for a long time in the right direction. I think the legalization thing will expand this year. I mean, you know, it's like the camel's nose on the thin type of thing. You know, you get something passed, anything, you know, and then you can expand that. And I suspect there will be, you know, laws to expand that. And you know, there's so much hypocrisy about marijuana and hemp and everything else. But you know, I think no one has mentioned that. You know, we have a product, Marinol, that's basically pure THC diluted with some oil, which is it's legal. It's, you know, a prescription. It's Schedule 3 or 4. So how can you say that that's legal and you know it's safe, and you ban cannabis? So I think I like the idea of the homegrown thing. I think, especially if you one of the things that's threatening people is THC, right? Even though they sell THC, you know, as a prescription product, and you can get as much as you want of it. If we legalize homegrown for, you know, strains of cannabis that had lower THC, I think it would be much less threatening. It would still work. And if you extract it, you get the THC anyway, right? I mean, if you extract low THC marijuana, you get high THC stuff, but you know, for edibles, wherever. If you extract high THC, you get more. But the point is, I think low THC cannabis would be less threatening to people. And you know, if you smoke that, you know, you'd have some effect, but you wouldn't, you know, have the psychotic effects of the high THC strains that, you know, people might. I've seen, you know, cases where people tried those and had some unfortunate reactions. So I think we have to think what we can pass, what we can pass to do forward. I like the homegrown idea. I think we want to push that partly because if people get used to growing marijuana, they get less afraid of it. Their relatives, their friends, everybody else gets empowered by it, especially if they can give it away. I mean, I think if you have it where they can give it away, it's less threatening to, you know, dispensaries and other people who want to profit from it. Because a lot of people, you know, they would love to just grow it. They want an experience of growing it, and they want to grow enough. And if you can give it away, you can have less limits on how much you can grow. So I think we're making progress. Yeah. Voting for the right people and voting and asking the right questions of the legislators. Remember, we get reelected every 2 years, so we're very vulnerable to the voters. But I think, in general, issues like this, our state is fairly progressive. You know, our governor right now is much more hesitant and timid and conservative than we'd like to see on this issue, and we're just going to push his advisors as well as him, and get the leaders of the legislature who are pretty supportive to open more channels of communication with him so we can convince him before he does another veto or, comes out with some oppositional statement, perhaps even, when he gives his first address to us, maybe he'll be more open, and hopefully, we will be able to get him to do that this year. So I'm pretty optimistic, actually. I think we're moving in the right direction, and the hemp thing is very frustrating, and USDA, has come out with some rules which I think I did not expect some of the things in there, but we can work with it. And as people have said, since in our past has been somewhat restrictive, we're kind of used to it, so we're better aligned. And people who put huge amounts of money on the mainland now have to scramble to figure out what they're going to do. So I think, we've been cautious, but some of that caution might be a little justified considering what the USD is doing. But I think, we're on the right track. We're going to make progress. I hate to say we should be patient because we've been patient for so long, but I think a little patience will help, and I think we're gonna get some stuff done this time. So thank you very much.
If I may too, the legislature begins in 8 weeks, meaning that if there are issues, you need to contact your lawmakers now and let them know what you support. Of course, the hemp and CBD that's being talked about today, at the top of the list to see if Hawaii can pass some legislation. But on the medical cannabis area, there's some things that we can do immediately if our legislature has the courage. So one, edibles. There's no reason why we shouldn't have edibles. I remember having a discussion with the Department of Health because they are always saying, well, we're anti-smoking. Great, then you must support edibles. Okay, but they're not. But we need to make certain that we get the word out because, again, edibles is a way that every person in here could possibly get involved if we have the right legislation in place. If you can make a cookie, if you can make a brownie, if you can make a smoothie, where people don't have to smoke. Anything that can be ingested, edibles, that's what we want. So put out that battle cry, we need to have edibles. And then the issue on the dispensaries, and this is going to be probably a couple years to get to, but whether we go and stay vertical with our system or go horizontal. And as you know, currently we have a vertical system, right? Where you get a license and then you grow, you harvest, and you sell all once. The lucky businesses and people, good for them. But we want to go horizontal. So we could have one person might just want to grow the best we have. And mark my word, when all of this is said and done and it's legalized, Hawaii will be known to have the best cannabis in the world. Okay? Yeah. No doubt in my mind. So the branding, we all know that it's going to be there and what the possibilities are. But we want the horizontal system so someone can grow, someone can make products, and then someone can sell. And again, that's spreading the wealth and making sure the middle class, the low income, the former felons, that they can all participate and not just make it all about big pharma, big corporations, big money. Okay, because we need to provide opportunities for our residents that's going to help them survive and live in our state, which has become a state of haves and have-nots. And it's become a state where all of us know someone who has moved away or who's thinking of moving away because of the high cost of living. And cannabis can help in that case because of the CBD is going to be a $5 billion industry this year in the United States. Last year, CBD was not a $1 billion industry. By 2023, they're saying CBD might be a $20 to $25 billion industry in the USA. So you can see the potential, and we understand why there are people who are opposed, but this really is a plant that's been here for millions of years, that has therapeutic and medicinal qualities. And the big guys and the rich money stopped all the research in the 20s and 30s and 40s because, as we know, the West was won on cannabis, guys. We don't see that in the history books, but you know, what did they use to dull their pain? Whiskey or cannabis, right? You know, and from my reading and all, women in particular were the biggest and some of the biggest beneficiaries of cannabis because of what it does and how it helps the body. So, you know, we need to support legislators and lawmakers who are pro-cannabis. Okay, and that most recent billionaire that stepped in, Bloomdale, or what's his name? Bloomberg.
Michael Bloomberg.
I don't even know what the hell his name is, but I hear he's against cannabis. So just throwing that out there. He's on record in the past. Maybe he switched his tune. Maybe we'll get Joe Biden to switch his tune on this too. But you know, there are people out there that understand this the way you understand it. And we need to get those guys in office one way or the other.
I would like to remind everybody, do you have a question?
A lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
What's the time, Leila?
We've got about really 5 minutes.
Okay. I just want to say one brief thing. Any legalization or decriminalization is a step forward. Even though it's limited, even though it doesn't make sense, if you don't go to jail for pot, for whatever type of pot you're talking about, whatever, you know, hemp. I mean, there's a problem that the authorities can't tell the difference between a hemp leaf and a marijuana leaf. Well, there is no difference. You know, so they find it hard to distinguish. Well, it's hard to distinguish. So any step forward for legalization any way is a step forward. In California, they freed all those prisoners. Now, they're still messed up there. But at least you can't go to jail for pot in California now. So that's, thank you. And you had a question?
Well, I wanted to follow up on the Ruggles acquittal.
Yes.
How important that is. This is where we were in Washington in 2012, where patients could sell to patients.
Mm-hmm.
So collectives started, farmers markets started.
Yes.
We had 6 of them in Seattle by the time they shut it down. But when patients could start selling to patients, that's a big step.
Yes.
towards spreading.
It was very successful in California. They killed the collectives and they don't allow farm to table. And that's why the black market has bloomed up 10,000 times stronger than it was even 1 year ago. So the collective system works, and I totally support that. And I think the farmers should be able to sell directly. Yes.
And
Yes,
then
sir.
a question for the legislators. How does the DOH come out with a list of regulations that didn't get passed by the legislature that we have to live by? How does that happen?
Well, that's called rulemaking. We give them the authority to put together administrative rules. And it does have to go through hearing, but we could pass laws through the legislature, and we could give the executive branch the authority to make rules to make something happen. That's
But our laws override the rules. So if they make rules, okay, we pass laws, they're supposed to make rules to flesh out those laws, right? You know, the devil's in the details, so the rules are the details. If the rules they make seem counter to the intention of the legislature, we just pass the laws and say, your rules are no longer operative. And so we have much more authority than they do. It takes us a little while, but actually rules take longer than our lawmaking. So, I think you got to remember that it's the legislature that makes the law. They make the rules, but we can change their rules, and we override their rules, right? So if we don't like the rules, I don't like the rules. We definitely can override them and change them, and that's what we need to do.
And we looked at all and possibly the state of Hawaii not take cannabis off the Schedule 1. And go state by state to do that. I'm not sure what the impact is.
Well, Cliff Otto's been fighting for that. I totally support the idea. eventually, if enough states do that, hopefully, the federal level says that it's Schedule 1, it has no medical benefit. Of course it has a medical benefit. Everybody says it does. So they're totally lying and they're totally hypocritical. And they actually allow Marinol, which is THC. So, I mean, it's crazy. I don't know. Strangely enough, I mean, Trump, who knows what he could do? He could do that or push that. You never know what he'd do.
Any president could have done an executive order to take cannabis off of Schedule 1.
Right.
They've had that power. Yeah.
And we could do it in Hawaii. Our legislature has not had the gonads to do it. You gentlemen.
Where can I get medical marijuana consulting now?
Right here.
Line forms to the left.
Yeah, the line forms to the left here. Yeah.
Do you mind if I
Well, does somebody have an answer for this gentleman?
Yeah, I do. I'll-
Okay, good.
May I use your mic real quick?
Sure.
Well, there's one
There's one right there.
Right behind you.
Thank you. I want everybody to write this name down. His name is Darren Stephen Miller. Darren Stephen Miller, you go on Facebook. He cured himself of stage 4 terminal cancer with THC. He's working with Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson is building the world's largest dispensary and theme park in Las Vegas. So Darren Stephen Miller. He's got an amazing Facebook page. He actually teaches you how to make the RSO oil. Okay, thank you.
And the Maui medical cannabis dispensaries could probably help you as well.
Well, yeah, they have Michael Bax come in once a month to give a lecture. So I can't get it for my medical.
Gentleman in the back?
The Maui Cannabis Country is a private entity, but if you go to the, for that guy, or if you go to the College of Seton at the university, they have resources there, and doctors, and educators, he can call them.
The University of Hawaii, Maui?
Yes,
Also-
Act now.
CTAR.
Also, there's Global CBD that's on Maui here. They are one of our sponsors that made this entire event possible for the hemp tent. Global CBD, they have information on their website, theactnow.org. Although it's not local to Maui, you can call and speak with a nurse about any prescriptions or ailments, and they will give advice for both THC and CBD and hemp products.
And that's globalcbd.com. Final question?
Right.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.